Good afternoon. I'd like you to see something. If you received an orange name tag when you came in, will you please raise your hand? Raise it up high and look around. The people with their hands raised are about 18% of this audience. 18% of working age households in Summit County do not have enough income to meet their basic needs. Thank you. That 18% comes from the self-sufficiency standard that was developed by the Center for Women's Welfare at the University of Washington. The budget items in the self-sufficiency standard include housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and taxes. Once people pay the expenses that they have to in order to stay housed and get to work, the part of their budget that gets squeezed is food. If you don't mind, will you wear that name tag while you're here today so that we can be reminded that 18% of working age households in Summit County do not have enough income to meet their basic needs. Summit County has a group of organizations that helps people facing food insecurity. Food insecurity is a term used to describe when someone cannot access or afford enough food for their overall health and well-being. This group of organizations, the Summit Food Response Team, is made up of people who work at food pantries and host community dinners, as well as people who work in public health and other social service organizations. This team is experiencing a continuing and alarming increase in the number of people seeking food access. Visits to free food access points in Summit County have doubled 3 of the 4 years since 2019. In 2020, Carrie, a worker on the mountain, was struggling to afford to live here. She was devastated to need food assistance, despite her college degree and 6 years of work experience. She said to herself, "Am I going to be okay? Will I have enough food?" Carrie received a bag of food every Thursday and a hot meal every Sunday from Father Dyer Church. She also got a hug when we weren't supposed to get close to each other. And Vicki at the church said, "You have to come back and tell me you're going to be okay." Our community dinners and food pantries do not require that people prove their income in order to get help. This is important because more than 2/3 of that 18% of households that are struggling earn too much money to get federal food assistance. This is always really also very important because so that our community members can access food with dignity. Carrie said, "It was huge. I didn't have to prove that I was poor in order to get help. And it's really humiliating to have to go in with your pay stubs and show that you can't make it." These problems are not unique to our community. In other tourism-based economies, many of them mountain communities like ours, people are struggling with high housing and food costs. I'm not telling you this so that we can despair at where we are. I want you to know that if you see something you think you can do something about, keep trying, believe in yourself, and believe in your community, like I did. I'm an environmental engineer trained in waste management and energy efficiency. Our family has lived in the US, the Netherlands, and in India. And living in these different continents has caused me to see how different food systems serve and don't serve their communities. As I studied the US food system, I learned that there's food that comes all the way up to retail establishments like grocery stores and coffee shops and is thrown away before it's ever served or sold. This surplus food includes whole pans of food that never reach the serving line at event centers, and also extra produce and bakery items from grocery stores. I was inspired to act when I calculated that the amount of this surplus food, still good for people to eat, thrown away in Summit County was equal to the need faced by our residents facing food insecurity. I am ambitious. I believe that we can recover half of that food and fill half of the missing nutrition in our community. This adds up to 300,000 pounds of food a year, or 685 meals a day, and I believe we can get there in the next 5 years. It takes an enormous amount of land, labor, energy, and water to grow food and bring it all the way up here. Eating that food, rather than throwing it away, values that human and environmental capital. Recovering 300,000 pounds of food will reduce greenhouse gas emissions due to the production and disposal of that food, equivalent to getting 100 cars off the road a year. We can also slow climate change. I believe that our community cares enough about their neighbors in need to take action. This action is called food rescue. Food rescue organizations collect safe, healthy, fresh food from licensed food businesses and get it to people in need. Food rescue organizations work with food donors, volunteer food runners, and volunteer food packagers to collect and manage that food. And we work with community partners, including food pantries, community dinners, and neighborhood mutual aid groups in order to help us distribute that food. These are all people working for their communities, and there is a place for everyone to help. When I started Cafe Food Rescue, I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to work, but I believed that if I kept at it, I would figure it out. And I believe that our community would work with me and help me figure that out. We have a lot of surplus event food in our community, and in order for us to manage that safely, we work in donated commercial kitchens. And we have retail and wholesale licenses that allow us to handle, store, and distribute these foods. What Cafe Food Rescue has done in Summit County is provide the network of connections so that people can help each other. What's important about local food rescue organizations is that they are community-based and they can meet the needs of their specific locations. A fellow food rescuer in another community said, "You have to meet the donors and the recipients where they're at," meaning it's all imperfect and it's all fluid, and you have to stay flexible. You get more joy out of it if you go with the flow and embrace the chaos. Over the last 2 years, we have recovered 66,000 pounds of food, which is about 55,000 meals, and has covered 6% of the food insecurity in our community. And Carrie, that worker that I mentioned earlier, she is now the Catering and Conference Services Manager for Vail Resorts at Keystone and Breckenridge. And she is part of the team that makes sure that food gets from those conference centers to people in need, just like she was. And to Vicki at Father Dyer Church, she's doing okay. Food rescue alone is not going to solve the problem of people not having enough income to meet their basic needs. And food rescue alone is not going to solve the climate crisis. But it does give us a way to help each other and to value each other and our environment. And I believe that our community is ready to value each other and take action. And if you believe that too, please raise your hand. If your hand is raised, I invite you to find your local food rescue organization and ask how you can help. If you don't have a local food rescue organization, call me. Let's get one started. Thank Thank you.